In this video, I'll show you how to bind off in half fisherman's rib. Binding off in the pattern you're working in is a great idea as you won't ruin the flow of the pattern. I've already prepared a swatch where I've got my half fisherman's rib on the front and knit stitches on the back. I'm going to bind off in pattern on the right side of this swatch. So I'll start by binding off now. The first stitch is a purl stitch, so I'm going to purl that first stitch. And my second stitch is a knit into the stitch below. So I'm going to knit into the stitch below. And then just as I would work a regular bind off, I'm going to jump the first stitch over the second stitch. My next stitch is a purl stitch, so I'm going to bring the yarn to the front and purl the stitch. And then I'll bring that first stitch over the top of the other stitch to bind it off. Next stitch is a knit into the stitch below, so I'll knit into the stitch below. And then I'll jump one stitch over the other stitch to bind it off. Now I've got a purl stitch, so I'm going to purl the stitch. And then I'll bind off that first stitch on the needle. I'm going to just continue working that pattern all the way along. So knitting into the stitch below, binding off, purling, and binding off. So just keep working the same pattern all the way along. Now I'll work the last couple of stitches. So this one is a knit into the stitch below. So I'll knit that one into the stitch below. Bind off the first stitch on the right needle, and the last stitch is a purl stitch. So I'm going to purl that stitch, jump one stitch over the other to bind it off, pull the yarn through, cut the yarn, thread the end through the loop, pull it all the way to tighten, give it a little tug, and there you can see the edge where the pattern flows really nicely and I have a stretchy edge. And that is how you bind off in half fisherman's rib.